Dots. I'm Dr. Latifat. I'm the host of the MoneyfitMD Podcast. This is where we help badass women physicians just like you learn simple and effective tools to build wealth from the inside out. That way, we can create wealth and bigger impact without all the burnout. Enjoy the episode. Hey, I'm so glad you're joining us for this episode. Listen up. If you're a woman physician who has ever considered quitting her business or quitting the flexibility she has in her life from like a locums type work because, quote unquote, my income is variable and it makes it hard for me to manage my finances, this episode is for you. And I hope you haven't quit yet. Welcome, guys. This is Dr. Latifat. I'm super duper excited about this episode. Big shout out to the anonymous doctor that asked me a question about this. You are the reason why I'm doing this episode. And I know that it's going to help so many women physicians. And by the way, if this episode helps you, then I challenge you and encourage you to share it with other women physicians. Listen, the key is, when it comes to having the life that you want, when it comes to having the freedom of your time, freedom to be your own boss, it comes at a cost. So if you own your own business, you own your own practice, your locums doc, you can have control over your hours much more than you can if you're employed. You can have control over your time, over your income. But the downside or the cost that happens with that is the lack of regularity. But that is really not a problem. Right? So it is so important that I do this episode for you. And it's so important that at the end of this episode, you do two things. Well, three things. One is, I would love if you left us a review on what you thought about this episode. And it's really easy to do it by simply scrolling down to the very bottom of whatever platform you're listening with. Number two is, I want you to share this. Share it with other women physicians. You can text it to them. You can email it to them. You can tag them on social media, because you literally could be helping another doctor not quit. And what is the benefit of that in their life? You know, I always say that the needs of the community can be met by the community. And if you're a part of our broad MoneyfitMD community, that means that you can serve another woman physician that gets to not quit because of you. And number three is, I want you to take a pen and paper at the end of this. So if you're driving and listening, when you get home, just type on your phone or write on a piece of paper your own strategy for how you're going to be able to impute the information that you learn on today's episode in order to be able to help yourself create the security and the financial growth that you want without sacrificing the freedom that you so deserve. So now let us talk about the episode. I'm super duper excited. If we haven't met, I'm Dr. Latifat. I'm the founder of MoneyfitMD, which is our platform, which includes the podcast, includes our book, Done with Broke, The Woman Physician's Guide to More Money and Less Hustle, which is our only Amazon bestseller for now. So stay tuned. And also the Money School for Women Physicians, which I have the honor of leading as a village for women physicians that want to curate their own rich life without overscheduling themselves, without grinding to pieces, and without losing their own life, really their life in the process. So anyways, I'm on to this episode. So here's the deal, guys. There's something that I've talked about, and I probably need to dedicate an entire episode on, which is the whole thing about like paycheck addiction. So paycheck addiction is a real thing. And I'm calling it paycheck addiction because I truly believe that that's what it is. But if you think about our culture, what we've done as a culture is we've been taught that if you have money coming in every single month, then you're safe. You have security. That's what we've been taught. So go get a job, because when you have a job, it doesn't matter if you like the job, doesn't matter if you're abused at the job, just don't lose your security, because your security is a paycheck that you're getting. So at least, thank God, I got a paycheck, right? That's what we've been taught. So it is not surprising that when you put yourself and position yourself in a place where that income may not be guaranteed every month, or you just don't know exactly what it's going to be every month, it feels risky to you. Not because there's something wrong with you, but because we've been taught and told and conditioned forever that a paycheck is the biggest form of security. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? But if that thought, if that story that you've inherited from culture, from society, from even your family members is the reason why you're about to lose the actual living a life of freedom, having control over your time, being your own boss, then that story is not serving you. That story is helping you if you love being employed and you're like, you know what? Thank God I'm employed. Thank God I have guaranteed income. And again, nothing wrong with that. If a story is helping you, keep it. But if it's hurting you, what the heck? Dump it, right? So my question for you is, if you as a physician that has variable income source that you love for whatever reason, because you are able to schedule your life around it, you're able to be your own boss, you decide when you work, you decide how you work, you're able to not miss your kids' activities because that's something that matters to you. Or maybe your spouse has a job that's also demanding, and you guys have decided that you are the one that has more of a variable hours, so that you are the one that is dependable in that regard. Maybe the kids are sick, you're the one that can hop up. Like, those are valid reasons. And the story that an employed physician is telling themselves that's keeping them employed is not actually helpful for you, right? So you have to start to ask yourself, is this whole definition of financial security, as I've been taught by culture, helpful for me or not? If it's not helpful, then it's time to ditch it. And you are what this episode is for, because your income being irregular is actually not a problem unless you want it to be a problem, right? Because there is benefits to everything you do, there's risk to everything you do. So you have to ask yourself, in this season of your life, is the choices that you've made about how you want to earn, how you want to manage your time, is that what you want? Because if that's what you want right now, then everybody else and everything else can, like, whatever, can disappear for all you care. But now the question is, how do you decrease your anxiety and stress surrounding how you're managing the money around this decision that you've already made? And the decision you've made is, this is how I want to earn in this season. This is how I want to manage my time. The pros outweigh the cons. So how do you now even decrease the cons to even the barest minimum? And that's what you're going to learn in this episode. So I'm going to be talking about 3 things that will be helpful for you. And in fact, I would suggest that you treat this episode almost like a workshop, so that you can create your own strategy, your own plan, go execute it, and then I get to celebrate you. We get to celebrate together. All right. So the number one thing I want you to ask yourself is, what is my average monthly expenses? Do I actually know what that is? And of course, your expenses are going to differ month by month, but I'm asking for the average. And you can even look at the last year and ask yourself, have you had significant changes in your life? If the answer is no, then it's okay to extrapolate from last year and see how much did we spend last year. I want you to be careful about how you're looking at the expenses, because what many people are going to be tempted to do is they'll be tempted to look at last year, maybe look at their end of the year report on whatever budgeting or monitoring system they use and go, okay, I spent $300,000. Or maybe you'll be tempted to think about what you earned last year and assume that what you earned last year is actually what your expenses is. That's not the case, right? You can break down your expenses into things that your family, actually you or your family needed to be well, versus what was things like, vacation or investments. I'm talking about your minimum expenses here. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, you can go find the episode that I call the minimum viable expense. And I'm actually going to have my team go ahead and add that to the show notes so that you can have easy access to that. And what that is if push comes to shove, if the world goes to shits, what is the amount of money that I would need to be safe, to be secure? So I'm talking about like your rent or mortgage, your utilities, your food, not like over the top food, but like your minimum viable expense food. And again, the point is not to be perfect about this. The point is to have a general idea that is a safe assumption, or safe knowing, not a complete assumption, but an average estimate. So for example, for you, maybe like $5,000 a month, right? So the goal for this exercise is just to know that number, not what I'm earning, but what my minimum viable expense is. So when you know your minimum viable expense, that gives you an average general amount. And this is helpful as well. Even if you're not a variable earner, this is still an exercise that I highly, highly recommend. If you're someone that wants to take a sabbatical, that wants to take a clinical pause, again, this is something that I definitely really recommend. And by the way, if you're someone that wants to take a sabbatical or a clinical pause, you 100% need to like pause right now and go to this link, moneyfitmd.com/sabbatical, so that you can download my free guide on how you can take a pause and how we were able to do that, travel to 19 countries with our kids, 3 kids. And, I've heard great feedback about this sabbatical guide that I've created, and I think it will be of value for you if you're a woman physician. So definitely go access it, go check it out. It may help you do the thing that you've been wanting or too afraid to do. So that's that. Number 2 is, now that you know what your minimum viable expense is, I want you to think of how long it would take for you to create that. And you can take this monthly expense and multiply it by 6, or if you want to be crazy aggressive, which I don't recommend necessarily, you can multiply it by 12. So that now you know that, okay, this is the amount that is going to cover my expenses at the minimum for 6 months, at the minimum for 12 months. When you know that number, now you're looking at how you're going to be able to create that. So if you own a business, for example, you're a physician and you own your own practice, if you look at your expense, your income over the last 3 months, 6 months, just averagely, how long does it take for you to create this amount? So for you, it may be a month. For you, it may be 2 months. For you, maybe 3 months. That is all you need to create, quote unquote, that security in numbers for yourself. So now that you know that even as a variable income earner, maybe I'm a per diem person, I'm a locums doc, I know that if I earn what I earn a month and my locums is going to cover my 6 months of my minimum expense, that's what I need. That's what I need. And now decide, where do you want to put that money? Whether you want to put it in a high interest savings account, where it's earning something. With every decision you make, there's going to be pros and cons. The advantage of having access to this money is you now have that quote unquote security. And I don't like using the word security, because I honestly don't think our security comes from something external. My security comes from God. My security comes from my ability to use my mind. That's a gift from God, right? Our mind is our biggest gift. And as long as my mind works, I can earn, right? So my security is not in the economy. It's not in my employer. It's not in whatever. It is internal. And when you start to do that, it's going to create the next level of freedom for you. However, I do know that for many of us, it helps to have the cash. So understand that the downside to you keeping the cash liquidly accessible is you will be losing out potentially on a return on your investment, but that is just the cost of having that money accessible for you in liquid form. So I hope that makes sense. So now that you've projected that amount, you know that if I work locums for 1 month, now I have this money that's going to cover my living expenses at the minimum for the next 6 months. And now you like breathe a little bit easier. Whew, you're like, okay, let's see if I can breathe now. I don't have to freak out. Because the thing is this, you don't want to make financial decisions from a fight or flight response. You don't want to make, if you're desperate for a relationship, it makes it so much easier for you to like say yes to the next dude that may not even be like all that. Just being real, right? So that's why I don't want you making financial decisions from a fight or flight response. I want you to make it from a grounded, less emotional space where you can think clearly about the risk and benefit, not like obsess over it, but be able to make that decision and then be able to move forward. So now that we know that, then the next decision becomes, how much do I want to invest this year? Because remember that what builds wealth is not just what you earn, it's what you invest in. And we're investing not just for the short term, but for the medium and long term, especially for the long term. Because while you're able to work, while you're young, while you're relatively young, even if you're 50s, this is maybe the youngest you're ever going to be. So you can imagine when you're 70, 80, you may not want to work clinically, or at least you want to give yourself the freedom to not have to do that. So making sure that while you are relatively youngest you're ever going to be, your expenses can still be taken care of by you doing the actual work. And now your investments can now be going towards saving for the long term, investing for the long term, not just saving in an account, but like saving through investing for the long term. So now the question becomes, how much do you want to invest? And I find that many people don't even ask themselves that question. How much do you want to invest every year? How much do you want to invest this year? So for you, maybe you're investing in your, if you have access to, 401k, Roth IRA, SEP IRA, whatever it is, you have more of a, like how just choosing what vehicles you want to invest and deciding how much you want to invest. So now that you've taken care of the minimum viable expense mentally or figuratively or actually practically, then the next question is, how much do I want to invest? So whatever you're earning next is going towards that, towards investing, so that this is how you force appreciate your life. And when I'm talking about investing, I'm not just talking about investing in, like your physical, tangible assets only. I'm talking about investing in your brain, like gathering wisdom, learning wisdom is an investment. I invest in wisdom. I invest in acquiring skills. I invest in tangible assets. I invest in my life and my relationships. Those are the things I invest in giving. Those are the things that I invest in. And if you want to build wealth, if you want to like literally flip your entire life where you're become someone that has what I call financial liberation or true financial freedom, that is literally how you do it. You invest first. So how are you investing in these things? Deciding, do you want to invest $40,000 this year? Do you want to invest $100,000? Do you want to invest $200,000? Like decide this ahead of time so that your next income is going to create in that. And I want you to be done with the amount of investments you want by the time it's like half the year. By the time it's summer, you're done investing in your minimal decided investments. And now the next question becomes, how much do you want to spend on like having fun? Decide that amount for yourself. Like, do I want to spend 1 month's income on having fun for the year? Like, you get to decide the stuff. It's not about like your money or your life. In my opinion, it's both. You want to have both of them. And then now everything else you earn becomes a bonus, right? So again, you can create that quote unquote certainty and security for yourself. It doesn't have to be someone else creating it for you. The advantage of the fact that you have the flexibility, you're on your own boss, cannot be underestimated. It is really powerful and important. So if you've made the decision to create this flexibility for yourself, don't let culture make you think you're doing it wrong, because you're not doing it wrong. You've decided what is going to be best for your family. You're telling yourself a different story that's helpful to help you actually live the life that you want. And my hope is that what we've talked about this episode now helps you create that. Okay, again, so the first one is knowing what your average monthly expense is. You can listen to the episode on minimum viable expense if you need to learn what that is again. Number 2 is projecting over 6 months or a year, right? And now that you know that amount, making sure that you're thinking about what your need for your expenses, but also what you want to invest, what you want to use to have fun, and what you want to do for extra. So now literally you're giving yourself bonus the rest of the year, because now you're like, I get to do whatever I want with my time, right? This is how we do it. So those are the 3 points that I wanted to discuss with you guys. Some words of caution. Again, there is risk and benefit to you having liquid cash. I don't want you hoarding and thinking that you need multiple 6 figures in cash in order to be able to be well, to be fine, to have the certainty you want. If you have more complex investments, if you have lots of assets, yes, your liquid cash is going to need to be dependent on what you need to be able to run things in those other investment vehicles that you have, right? So that's why I want you to make this applicable to yourself and personalize this so that it works for your life. Not works for Latifat, but works for your life. Because at the end of the day, that's what matters. So I hope this episode has been of help to you. I hope it's added value to you. And like I mentioned at the beginning, I would love it if you share this with another woman physician. Again, the needs of the body and the community can be met by the community. The needs of our village can be met by our villagers, right? And if you're in our wider MoneyfitMD community, if you're one of our MoneyfitMDs, then, or DOs, we love you guys too. This is a time for us to help you learn how to stay free, how to be well. And by the way, if I can be of service for you, if you want to learn more, if you want to work together, if you want to one, accountability, coaching, networking. In order to be able to make this work, definitely check out the Money School by visiting moneyfitmd.com/MSB. You can see the link to submit a form on how you can learn more and how you can be a part of our community. We'll be in touch with you within 24 hours so that we can help you figure out your next step to creating your own life of freedom. I love you. I appreciate you. And I'll see you in the next episode. Goodbye.